To comment during the Frankly Speaking show, you first need to open the video that is being streamed live. Look for the chat box on the side or bottom of the video player. This is where you can type your message. Click inside the chat box and use your keyboard to type out what you want to say. You can type words, use emojis, or even ask questions. Once you've typed your message, press the Enter key on your keyboard or click the Send button. Your comment will then appear in the chat for everyone watching the live stream to see. If you want to send another comment, just type it in the chat box again and press Enter or Send. Your new comment will show up below your previous one.
Good day. Good day. Good day. The poor state of the health service in Jamaica continues to make the news, no matter what flavor is put on it. Our regular panelists, Mary White and Desmond Richards, are with us. Winnie is away today. This is the 126th episode of the Frankly Speaking Jamaica Podcast. I'm Frankly McKnight. The state of the healthcare system will dominate.
Joshua Franklin gone again. Mary.
Well, what's supposed to be happening right now? We were supposed to be having an audio message from the Minister of Health, Minister Tufton, who gave a release to Frankly Speaking. That should have come over. So if Joshua, we didn't hear that. So if you could play it again for us with the volume. Thank you.
That have provoked a series of public discussions in the social media space primarily. The Ministry of Health and Wellness, through the Regional Health Authorities, in response, investigated three of the deaths and prepared reports on the findings, which were submitted to Cabinet for their consideration. I'm going to comment on what the conclusions are coming out of those discussions. Report on the death of Mr. Rohan Livingston Bryan at the Princess Margaret Hospital. The Southeast Regional Health Authority investigated the death of Mr. Rohan Livingston Bryan, who died on April 30th, 2024 at the Princess Margaret Hospital, 2 days after admission. SERA's report identified several issues that may have contributed to the unfortunate outcome of Mr. Bryan. Investigations by SERA are still ongoing. However, the case has also been referred to the patient complaints mechanism that have provoked a series of public discussions in the social and legal space primarily are being convened to review. The Ministry of Health and Wellness, through the regional health authorities, in response, have investigated three of the deaths and prepared reports on the findings, which were submitted to Cabinet for their consideration. I'm going to comment on what the conclusions were coming out of those discussions. Report on the death of Mr. Rohan Livingston Bryan at the Princess Margaret Hospital. The Southeast Regional Health Authority investigated the death of Mr. Rohan Livingston Bryan, who died on April 30th, 2024 at the Princess Margaret Hospital, 2 days after admission. SERA's report identified several issues that may have contributed to the unfortunate outcome of Mr. Bryan. Investigations by SERA are still ongoing. However, the case has also been referred to the patient complaints mechanism, where an expert panel of physicians and legal experts are being convened to review the issues raised in the report and to determine if there is any negligence on the part of any of the responsible personnel, as well as to make any recommendations for the way forward. That is the current state of play as it relates to that incident.
If we remember, we had, okay, go on. We're not hearing this video. All right, I see Termac is back, so
I'm lost. I don't know where I should be.
Minister Tufton just finished. So if we can pause this video that is on screen now, Joshua, to bring back Sir Mac in, then to comment on Minister Tufton.
I'm so sorry, everybody. The people who are here on this platform know that we have been struggling with the internet all day today. But I think we were hearing Dr. Tufton. So let's listen to Dr. Tufton from the start if we can, Joshua.
We heard the video, Sir Mac,
Okay.
with
That have provoked a series of public discussions.
Where he was speaking, obviously, to the death of the gentleman in Princess Margaret that we had a guest on a couple of weeks ago, a fellow councillor.
Yes.
Who had
Rowan Bryan. So
yes.
Desmond, I wanted to get your comment on that one and the fact that this level of investigation is going to run.
Well, we heard the minister saying that he has a report and it has been referred to another body for them to consider, to examine and decide if somebody should be held responsible. Well, we look forward to the results of those investigations, right? But you see, Franklin, the point is, as I indicated, how many other Jamaicans have died through negligence at the public health facilities, and we don't hear this level of investigation is not initiated. This is only initiated because it was someone of prominence, a councillor. What about the ordinary people who are not receiving care? What is there an investigation going to be ordered into the death of that patient at Falmouth? What about that one?
Well, the minister said, Desmond, I didn't have the fuller report. We didn't show the fuller report there. But the minister said those three, the one with the lady at Falmouth who apparently had a stroke, the baby in Maypen, who died in what was being alleged as a case of negligence, and Councillor Rowan Bryan in Morant Bay at Princess Margaret.
Yes.
All of those, he said, were investigated. This one,
we're only taking this one because we have Washi to come on.
yes, that's right. We had that. We dealt with that one several times, and not only that, he seems to have suggested that this is the one that is nearer to causing some problems of negligence. I'm sorry we didn't carry his full video segment, and it's a longer one. But again, we just want again to hear Dr. Tufton again, just one more time, even for people who miss it just this time here now, with regard to Rohan.
That have provoked a series of public discussions in the social media space primarily. The Ministry of Health and Wellness, through the regional health authorities in response, have investigated three of the deaths and prepared reports on the findings, which were submitted to Cabinet for their consideration. I'm going to comment on that have provoked a series of public discussions in the social media space primarily. The Ministry of Health and Wellness, through the regional health authorities in response, have investigated three of the deaths and prepared reports on the findings which were submitted to Cabinet for their consideration. I'm going to comment on what the conclusions were coming out of those discussions. Report on the death of Mr. Rohan Livingston Bryan at the Princess Margaret Hospital. The Southeast Regional Health Authority investigated the death of Mr. Rohan Livingston Bryan, who died on April 30th, 2024 at the Princess Margaret Hospital, 2 days after admission. Sarah's report identified several issues that may have contributed to the unfortunate outcome of Mr. Bryan. Investigations by Sarah are still ongoing. However, the case has also been referred to the patient complaints mechanism, where an expert panel of physicians and legal experts are being convened to review the issues raised in the report and to determine if there is any negligence on the part of any of the responsible personnel, as well as to make any recommendations for the way forward. That is the current state of play as it relates to that incident.
Okay, and you're seeing on screen a picture of Councillor Rohan Bryan's widow, who was here telling us the pain she felt in communicating with him after the hospital had made him wait almost 2 days and still had not been able to provide an ambulance to take him to a facility in Kingston from St. Thomas to do a test that had been ordered by the hospital. And she was with us. Now, these investigations are taking place. I'm just mentioning Desmond that it was not just his, but 3 of them, and he spent a little time on all of them. But this one seems to be, I don't want to say, well, it seems to be the one that was causing the ministry more trouble. Okay, now, Dr. Tufton spoke about Councillor Bryan. Now, I'd like to say, one of the issues doctors have told me about that is of concern to them, and I've been looking at this thing for a few weeks, and the whole situation has come up that we have sort of zoomed in on it. One of the issues doctors have told me about is the lack of very critical diagnostic equipment in the hospitals.
Right.
In the 3 cases mentioned, the baby, the woman at Falmouth, and Councillor Bryan, a common feature was the lack of diagnostic machines or equipment at the hospital, as well as the treatment by medical staff. When you listen to family members close by, you find it a sort of cold. But let's go on. Now, that matter of the diagnostic equipment is still not being addressed. The folly or otherwise of the government farming out to private labs the services required in public hospitals. We turn to a very highly qualified consultant in the country to give us a medical perspective on the matter. Is Dr. Brian James, consultant anesthesiologist and intensivist and a former president of the Medical Association of Jamaica. He serves in various other capacities in the public system, but we wanted to get a perspective, and he wasn't commenting on any of these cases. You know, doctors wouldn't comment on these cases. He wasn't commenting on any of these cases, let me put that down. He was just simply trying to educate us, me, and those of us who don't know the situation with labs and the diagnostic equipment. Remember, this is the man who is in charge right now for most of the ICUs. So let's spend a little bit of time with us, please. Consultant, Dr. Brian James. Good day. We have had concerns, as you know, listeners, viewers, for the last several weeks. We have been speaking about what are called diagnostic machines, what we lay people out here, and we are the ones who get sick, consider diagnostic machines. And we have just the person who can really help us understand this. It's Dr. Brian James. He's a consultant anesthesiologist and intensivist. And many of us don't really understand that. So I'd love him to just tell us briefly about that. And then Dr. James, if you can just go on to tell us these things that we call diagnostic machines, what are they? And you can give us a list of them.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. McKnight, for having me on your very important public information program and discussion program. So what I do, I'm an anesthesiologist. That's simple enough for most people to understand. Although they don't understand the mechanics, I put patients to sleep in order for them to, to be in a position to benefit from surgical intervention, mostly. And then I monitor them and then I wake them up, very importantly. As an intensivist, I take care of patients who are critically ill. And when we say somebody is critically ill, we mean that one or more of their vital organ systems is failing or about to fail. So whether your heart, your lungs, your brain, your liver, or your kidneys, those are your vital organ systems. So we support those, we take steps to cure them, we take steps to address the situation. So I was just going to move on to the meat of the matter that you spoke about, what you call diagnostic machines, right? What I'm going to do is kind of try and give you a background of how medicine works and how what you call diagnostic machines fit into the paradigm of making a diagnosis, right? So if you are sick, whether you're very critically ill or you just have a rash or something like that, you go to a doctor and you want that doctor to make a diagnosis and recommend a treatment. The paradigm, the framework upon which this process is built is of history, in physical examination, and investigation. So it's the third one that you are interested in today. But the first two actually form the basis upon which you decide on which of the diagnostic imaging techniques that you're going to use. Right? So let's say you collapse. Let's say you collapse and you're now unconscious. The doctor wants to know what are circumstances. Did you have an issue before? Did something hit you in your head? Were you diabetic and not taking your medication, or diabetic and taking your medication without food? And all of those things. Did you clutch your chest just before you collapsed? All of those things will come together to determine which direction he or she will examine. So if it is a matter that you were totally fine before and you just fell on the floor and you started to have seizures, then he knows that he must go towards the brain and he must try and address that seizure situation as an emergency. If you're a diabetic and you didn't take your medication, then he or she knows that maybe you are in hyperglycemic coma, right? None of those things require any of the machines that you just spoke about. If you are walking up and down, you're hypertensive, you have high blood pressure, and you just suddenly fell, and you can't talk, you seem to be awake, but one side of you not moving, then he or she knows that maybe you had a stroke from that history. He would examine you and see that one side is stronger than the next, and so you may very well have had a stroke, and he will see what your blood pressure is, try to stabilize all of those things, and then he would decide, yes, you need a CT scan. Or, depending on where he thinks the stroke is, a CT scan might not be helpful. You need a magnetic resonance imaging, which is MRI, etc. So you see the entire schema that I just put together. They have to come together for you to decide what you need. Right now.
So doctor, just before you go on, because this might help as you go. So we are assuming, first of all, that the patient gets to a doctor patient gets to a doctor within a reasonable time.
Yes.
With all of those scenarios you raised, because sometimes we can't get to the doctor, but we are assuming that it gets to the doctor.
Yes.
And the doctor now decides whether you need any of those things. How important is it to get them very quickly or within a certain time?
So as I was trying to explain before, that is completely dependent on the history, the examination, and what you have as your differential diagnosis, right? A lot of things, a lot of these investigations that you might need are not important in the scheme of saving your life. You have to do the life-saving things. If somebody has a stroke because they had high blood pressure, right? Then their blood pressure might be out of control. So you cannot just grab that person and ship them off to CT or MRI because they will die there.
That was Dr. Brian James, consultant, anesthesiologist, and intensivist, and talking to us really just about how important the whole process of the diagnosis is. Not just what we call the diagnosis machines, it was imaging things, but and we have to listen to it. It takes time. Now the full interview, is about an half an hour, will be available on Frankly Speaking Jamaica Podcast YouTube channel later this week, the full interview. And we'll hear possibilities more about it here. But it's a very, very serious problem. Desmond is going to shift us away from this for the moment, but let me tell you, that matter of the diagnostic machines, as we ordinarily people call it, I'm not really letting it go. And we'll come back to it. So Desmond, Mary, you can make comments and then go on.
Before we go to Brother Desmond, Sir Mac, if I may interject here, as I listen to all of these, especially the Dr. Brian just now, I can't help but wonder, because it seems these days when you go to the doctors are no longer interested like your old-fashioned community doctor would. They would ask you a series of questions, use their little thing and to make a diagnosis, and could say to you, okay, this is what is happening to you. These days when you go to the doctor, it's so mysterious and scary because they don't give a diagnosis, and they send you to do one test, and that test come back, they send you to do another test. And so sometimes I wonder what is sent to it, because it's like you just keep going along a path and you still cannot come, and at the end of it, they may say to you, like what happened with my girlfriend. After she did several tests, it was still inconclusive as to what was wrong with her.
And did she do that in the public system or in the private system?
In the private system, because she has her health card. In the end, she ended up having a stroke some months later. You know, I don't know. I've sort of lost confidence in this new way of doctoring, because it just didn't seem like it was this way before. And then all of a sudden, it's all about labs and labs and labs and labs and labs and mysteries.
Okay, Mary, you know that I'm not even going to try to defend what the doctors do, because I know nothing about it, except that I know that these tests, these blood tests and lab tests are crucial, and doctors rely on them. And you want to talk about tests, wait till you think about the United States. I mean, but never mind. All right, Desmond.
One better Desmond.
Yes, before I talk about the Prime Minister's action against freedom of expression, I just want to repeat that the public health system is something that has broke. Services in the public health is something that has broken down for decades. Because even as we speak, those machines that the doctor spoke about, they are absent in many hospitals across Jamaica. They are not there, right?
In the lab, the paid lab too.
And the ordinary Joe cannot get those services at the public hospitals. They have to get them at labs elsewhere. Yes, but you see, when I have been, we are in the political season right now, And the Prime Minister came out with one of the political events of the season last year, talking about tracking down fake news on social media. Now, one of the things that we are guaranteed in this country is freedom of expression. And already there are laws on our books protecting people against any written word or spoken word that is offensive. There's the Defamation Act is there. If you tell a lie or defame somebody, you will pay for it, right?
But Desmond, isn't it true though? Desmond, isn't it true though that out there is a sort of a Wild West space now where people say anything about anybody, smash your reputation, you can't find them.
Everybody's a journalist, though, Sir Mark. Everybody is a lay journalist these days.
Well, what has happened,
Yes, and a commentator and an expert. That's why I was advising against these instant experts on the climate who can tell you this week coming, what's happening to the storm. But you go ahead, Desmond. Sorry.
No, that you see what you're talking about, Mr. McKnight, that comes along with social media. Remember, 20 years ago, we never had this. We never had this, and therefore,
give people a platform and keep them quiet.
Therefore, this social media is irreversible, and down the road, social media is going to become credible. Right now, it is incredible because it is new. When traditional media, one of the things that people must understand, when traditional media started, it had its imperfections, It's over years that it developed and cured itself. Social media is going to do that. But my point is, for the Prime Minister to spend his time, this time should be spent dealing with some serious issues affecting the people. This time that the Prime Minister wants to spend tracking down social media must be spent tracking down criminals, providing water to people, and dealing with the high cost of living that is tearing away the lives of the ordinary Jamaicans. People, right now we are in a hurricane season, and you have hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans who are living in unsafe places. If we are struck by a hurricane now, many people are going to die. These are issues that deserve the attention.
I hope it doesn't come our way. My apologies to Mary. My apologies to all our viewers at the rocky start we had to this week. And my apologies to those who say we're robbing Desmond of time every week. Because Desmond doesn't look at the clock as he's in sending us home. Thank you all for joining us for this 126th episode of the Frankly Speaking Jamaica Podcast. Thanks, Mary, for carrying us through that first.
Before we go, Sir Matt, let us just say thank you to Rubian and to Deandro who tuned in this week. So thank you, guys. Come back next week, please.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. And please subscribe. I have some people on the front here that I should be commenting, but we don't have the time. Thanks for sharing. And Mary didn't have the chance to make the comments. Thanks for sharing. Please subscribe to the Frankly Speaking Jamaica Podcast YouTube channel. Thanks again to Dr. Brian James on behalf of Desmond Richards, Mary White, and for technical support, Joshua Black, Media Services. I'm Franklin McKnight.